Chains rattle broken, now we rise. Flag in my hand, stars burn the skies. Truth ain't dead, though the liars try. They scream loud, but the words all die. Guys watching hands, raise to the throne. Freedom ain't free, blood built this home. Continue freedom, keep it alive. Red, white, blue, we bleed to survive. Continue freedom, keep it alive. Land of the free, ain't bending the knee. Truth in my veins, it's all I see. Patriots roar, no fear in the fight. Continue freedom, stand in the light.
All right, guys, it's another live stream. Thank y'all so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. If you're new here and you enjoy the content, be sure to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video is released. We've got some interesting stuff to talk about tonight. As you saw from the thumbnail, we've got some sparks that were flying at Megyn Kelly. I guess she was doing a live event. And the two folks that have been making the most, I guess, waves on the internet have been Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro, because they have gotten wildly personal towards one another. I mean, I think we're to the point that they, in whatever way, hate each other. But I'm going to play some clips. We've got several clips to play tonight. We'll see if I can stick to an hour. We'll see if I can last that long. But nonetheless, I've got beef with both of them, with both guys. I'm not a loyalist to either one of them. I'm a loyalist to good ideas and things that I think are helpful, or, helpful to our movement, helpful to the conservative movement, helpful to the MAGA movement. But this division that I've been talking about in the past several episodes, I think it's got to stop. But look, let's go ahead and get into the Tucker thing. I'll walk you guys through this piece by piece. Let's listen to this first bit of a clip. And by the way, go back and watch all of this. I'm going to pull out the pieces that help me explain what I feel like is going on around here. But go back and watch the whole thing. Both interviews are absolutely worth listening to. So let's play this first piece, and then we'll go from there.
I want to tell the truth as I understand it, with the ever-present knowledge that I'm kind of a buffoon and I'm often wrong. I supported the Iraq War. I remind myself of that every single day. I've made a ton of mistakes, a ton of errors and judgments. I've been carried away by enthusiasm and particularly by anger many times in my life. So with that knowledge, knowing that I am imperfect and I don't always possess the truth, okay? You always have to remember that because I'm not God. I still want to tell the truth as clearly and completely as I can in every venue, in every conversation, as fearlessly and without shame as I possibly can. And that's why Nazi Week doesn't bother me anymore, because I'm not a Nazi. I'm a Christian.
Of course. So what about, I don't want to spend the whole time on this, but I am curious. The main criticism, as I understand it, has been, well, yes, platforming. They say that. I don't accept platforming as a valid objection.
When is that a verb, by the way? You take a noun and you make it into a verb and nobody says anything? As a former editor, I say no.
Yeah, agreed. Okay. Honestly, but as far as I know, Nick Fuentes hasn't eaten anyone. Jeffrey Dahmer ate people, and he was platformed by Diane Sawyer.
Dude, we have a sitting member of Congress. I spoke to the Speaker of the House about this today. We have a sitting member of Congress from Florida called Randy Fine, who has literally texted or put on Twitter, we should kill them all. Every single one. Someone texted a picture of a dead baby, and he laughs at it. And it's like, this guy's a lawmaker who's appropriating money to a military committing genocide, and that's cool? It's not cool.
No.
And let's just be honest. That is much worse than anything Nick Fuentes has said, period.
So the main pushback has been, when you had Jeffrey Dahmer or the Ku Klux Klan, or et cetera, these journalists went after them, exposed the terrible things. And Nick Fuentes has said a long list of very vile things.
Big time, including attacking my dad, which was the most vile of all, in my opinion.
Yeah. I personally have watched videos of him questioning the Holocaust, likening it to baking cookies in the oven, and there's no way you could have gotten to 6 million, seems to be his theory. He seems to think that we've way overstated the number of Jews killed in the Holocaust. He's ripped on poor Usha Vance in the most offensive terms. Which I mean, so what do you say to those people? Say, why didn't you raise any of that?
Do your own interview the way that you want to do it. You're not my editor.
Okay, this is the first place that I have to stop. That is a cop-out. That is a 100% cop-out, because when you have somebody like a Jeffrey Dahmer, these are unthinkable acts that Jeffrey Dahmer did, and you're platforming because you want to get inside the psyche. Piers Morgan did the same thing. He did a whole slew of interviews about serial killers and all these evil people out in society, and he was digging deep and poking and prodding, not just letting the person sit there and talk without any pushback, which is what that we got from the Nick Fuentes interview. And that was, people like myself, that was my beef with the interview. By the way, I didn't preface any of this. That's the whole purpose behind this beef, behind the internet, infighting and all that's going on. It's specifically around the Nick Fuentes interview. And people are saying that, well, Nick Fuentes should be canceled, that Tucker should be canceled, or they're implying that that's what people like myself want. And that is absolutely not what it is. We'll get into what my thoughts on this are in a minute. But yeah, Nick Fuentes has said some horrible things. So why was there no pushback against Nick Fuentes? At that point, it's not an interview. It's a softball. Lob it up there and let the guy get access to your millions and millions of followers, which he would not have access to otherwise. Let's keep going.
I mean, I don't know. You want to go yell at Nick Fuentes? I'll give you his cell. Call him and go sit and yell at him and feel virtuous or whatever. That's up to you. I got the same thing with Putin. Why aren't you yelling at him? Okay, why? So I can show that I'm a good person? I care about what my wife thinks, my children think, and God thinks, and that's it. I don't need to prove that I'm a good person to you. You may think I'm a terrible person. Okay, I'm just doing my thing, which is I want to understand what people think, and I'm committed to that. And if you don't like it, don't watch. That's my view.
Did you get he's interested in what people think? I believe that's probably true. But why, with this particular guy, the most polarizing figure that we have on the right at the moment, other than some other folks, which I'm going to show you, they're his acolytes. They are spreading a lot of, I won't say slanderous, but a lot of filth online. And exactly, Timothy, he jumped all over Ted Cruz. So the Ted Cruz interview, which I've played several times, he poked and prodded and went after him. They were gotcha questions he knew the answer to that he knew Ted Cruz didn't have the answer to. He poked and prodded to get to the bottom of things. But when Nick Fuentes, and that's another good point. Timothy, you're making some good ones here. Right, that's supposed to be first for la-di-da-di everybody. But he poked and prodded with Ted Cruz, but he couldn't muster up the courage to do that with Nick Fuentes. And his motives behind that, I don't know. Do I think that Tucker is a hateful person? No, I absolutely don't. But I think that from an interview perspective, he totally and completely botched that one. He had an opportunity to expose Nick Fuentes when he said, hey, I celebrate Stalin's birthday every year. I'm kind of a fan, is what Nick Fuentes said. Well, okay. Explain to me the things that you approve of when it comes to Stalin, the guy who killed millions and millions and millions of people. Because Nick Fuentes, and I think I've got the clip here, Nick Fuentes has, Nick Fuentes, that's his take on women. Here we go. This is Nick Fuentes' take on Stalin. This is he was sitting down with Pearl from Pearly Things. She's a kind of a anti-feminist sort of character. Check this out.
Yeah, because he took his country and took it from nothing and turned it into an industrial nuclear superpower.
Didn't he commit a genocide?
That is what they say.
He didn't commit a genocide?
Well, I mean, I don't know, but
what do you mean you don't?
There's a lot of dispute about, was it intentional? Was it overstated?
How do you unintentionally commit a genocide?
Because he didn't really when they say it's a genocide, they say so. He went in there and forced agriculture to be collectivized with these brutal 5-year plans, really high quotas, and it didn't really work, and a lot of people starved and died from it. And so people then say, well, that was intentional. They were trying to kill all the Ukrainians. And I don't know if it was intentional, and I think maybe it's overstated how many people died after the revolution became the dictator and single-handedly took Russia and turned it into a superpower. There were a lot of casualties, no doubt, but Russia was like a farm country, and it turned into the #1 superpower in the world.
So maybe if we could go back, rewind, and ask Tucker, how about this? And maybe Megyn Kelly should have done her due diligence when it comes to Nick Fuentes. Tucker certainly could have done his due diligence and gone back and said, in an interview with Pearl from Pearly Things, I think that's right. Her name's Pearl. Anyway, during your interview with Pearl, you said, well, it's not quite as bad. And there were some casualties. I mean, tens of millions, by the way. There were some casualties, but they came out of it this great superpower. Okay, so are you an ends justifies the means sort of person? Do you believe that our domestic and foreign policy should be all based around ends justify the means? Because that's what he's alluding to in this interview. Tucker said, we'll circle back to that, and he never did. And that's a problem, because this guy is his audience. He's getting millions and millions of views from young men in particular. Very young men, up to the mid-20s and below. He is impacting future generations with this nonsense that he is spewing. Tucker had an opportunity to push back, to provide some context for people, and he didn't do it. And that's what we're angry about. One of the many things. And, let's see. Let me play a couple more clips here. This one is another piece of the interview. This is about him and Ben Shapiro, because this is where Ben Shapiro has really gone, where it's gotten personal, wildly, wildly personal. Let's listen to this
about
piece.
Ben Shapiro, because he too is under threat. I know you both very well, and I also really care about Ben. And you cannot see Ben without 6 armed guards. He said on the Daily Wire not long ago, and I think it was a great line. He said, if they kill Matt Walsh, God forbid, everybody will know who did it, some crazed leftist. He said, if they kill me, it'll be like an Agatha Christie novel, like a mystery, where they won't know. Could be alt-right, could be far left. Like, he's got a lot of haters. And so there was this one brief shining moment after Charlie died where you guys kind of buried the hatchet, and
I called him. I called him and Mark Levin, who I know well. He's obviously a lunatic, but he's a person, and I didn't want to fight. Well, he obviously is, but I didn't want to fight with him at all. And I said to both of them, I called them the day after, or 2 days after Charlie was killed, from my backyard, because I was really thinking about it and praying about it. And I was like, we agree on a lot, actually. And I'm not that interested in the topic of Israel. I'd be so glad never to hear the name again. I mean, I would be so glad. I would never mention it again. I'm not for more forever wars. Let's just stop that pressure, and I'll never mention it again. I'll never think about it again. You obviously care about it much more than I do. That's fine. But take that off the table, and we agree on a lot. So let's, not attack each other. And they didn't abide by those terms, but that's fine. They were under no
Mark
obligation.
Levin was literally attacking you within days of that. I remember when you had that conversation. We talked about
fine.
it. Within days.
Okay, this definitely looks like Tucker Carlson is entirely innocent. That he was attacked, he was the victim. It wasn't just Tucker being attacked. So let's play, and then I'm going to get to the Ben Shapiro side of this, the Ben Shapiro side of the argument. But this is Tucker on Ben Shapiro. This is part of the beef that has been going on with them. Listen to what he says about Ben Shapiro. Here we go. We got to get both sides of this one.
I did think it showed.
Oh, come on, ex-player.
Level of not just corruption, which I knew, but of emotional instability and craziness. I mean, there are people, and I stopped reading any of it, but there are people on the right who have spent the last 2 months every single day focused on a conflict in a foreign country as our own country becomes dangerously unstable on the brink of financial collapse, with tens of millions of people who shouldn't be here in the country. We don't know their identities or the purpose of their being here. Stuff that's could destroy the country for real and make it impossible for my kids to live here. They've said nothing about that, and they're focused with laser intensity on foreign conflicts. And I'm like, at some point, I've got 4 kids. If I'm so caught up in the problems of my neighbor's children and completely ignoring my own children as they get addicted to drugs and kill themselves, I'm not against helping my neighbor's kids, but clearly I don't love my kids. I mean, that's the only logical conclusion, and they don't care about the country at all. And that's kind of their prerogative, but I do, because I have no choice, because I'm from here, my family's been here hundreds of years, I plan to stay here. I'm shocked by how little they care about the country, and including the person you mentioned. And I can't imagine how someone like that could get an audience. of people who claim to care about America, because he doesn't, obviously, right?
Right. Well, I mean, Tucker, we've seen it too on free speech. I mean, people who've become multimillionaires, who've made entire careers, who've literally became famous, on this very reason. I know you've spoken about this previously, but it's very important to our audience as well. Is that standing up for free speech rights of people you disagree with is probably the most important exercise, and we've seen some of that come for American citizens on Palestine. How do you work through this too when we're both under such immense pressure, even social pressure, of like how could you support this? Take maybe the context of the university presidents. We've got billionaires like Bill Ackman, I'm curious what you make of this. My assessment is they're upset that they're not included as marginalized within the DEI regime. They claim
It's an interesting take. So this is part of the argument that people are making, that this is identity politics on the right. This is what they're saying. But the interesting thing is, on both sides, they're doing the same thing, because on Nick Fuentes' side, it is most definitely identity politics. This is one of his acolytes, Elijah Schaffer, loves the guy. And he's talking about, when they mention the 6 million Jews in the Holocaust, he comes up and mentions 70 million white Christian Europeans were killed in World War II. Now, this is where the arguments start to get kind of weird, and I'm going to try to piece this together for everybody, that's 70 million white Christian Europeans, most of which were killed by the guy a lot of whom were killed by the guy that Nick Fuentes and his acolytes purport to support, meaning Hitler and Stalin. This is where it gets, they pick and choose little pieces of things that they support, that they do and do not support. And so that's 400,000 Americans. They say, well, we're not worried about foreign wars and foreign deaths and foreign countries and all that stuff. And I'm not a person that wants to be involved in foreign wars. I agree with Tucker on that. I was part of that. That was the first part of my young life. The first 10 years of my young life was spent preparing to and going to fight in a forever war that we never should have been in the first place. Well, 2 forever wars, technically 1 under the whole global war on terrorism. I didn't have a perspective on that. All I knew was 9/11. It's my job to go and fight. And that's what most young Americans who fought and died and sacrificed families and all that, that's what they were thinking about. But nonetheless, these people pick and choose bits and pieces and say 70 to imply 70 million people died as a result of World War II. Well, a lot of it, they died under Stalin. They died under Hitler. The same ones that Nick Fuentes and his acolytes celebrate on a daily, weekly basis, from starvation and other things. We lost 400,000 Americans. So I asked them, aren't we supposed to not care about, some Brits who died over in World War II, and that their stance on foreign policy, on forever wars? You see how this is, it's childish arguments they are making, first off. They're nonsensical, but nonetheless, Tucker and Ben have absolutely been going at it. Let's get Ben's perspective. So we have to look at both sides of this. So here's Megyn Kelly and Ben Shapiro, and I think Ben did a good job of pushing back on Megyn's approach to this, because Megyn did go soft. She went soft on both of them. Let's be honest. I like Megyn Kelly. I do. And she's in an impossible situation across the board because she has been in this space for such a long time. She is very close friends with people. But this is part of public discourse. We have to be able to disagree on certain things and talk out our issues and find that common ground. Now, I believe that when it comes to left and right, there is little to no compromise with the left. And that's because their positions have become so wildly socialist. We just saw it happen in New York with Mamdani. They have gone so far to the left that there is very little room for compromise. And interestingly enough, some of the Nick Fuentes folks, and individuals like that, they were celebrating Mamdani. Interesting. But this is on our side. We had this movement that was going on, that was this MAGA movement that was incredibly effective, and it is crumbling because of rifts like this. Now, I'm hoping that we come out on the other side of this to the good, that we come out in a positive way, that the hatchet can be buried with these two guys and with all the other commentators that are at each other's throats. But there are certain people that we aren't going to find common ground with, and Nick Fuentes is one of them. And I think that's one of the reasons Ben Shapiro was mad that Tucker Carlson put him on and gave him access to his millions and millions of followers. But let's listen to what he has to say.
You and I have talked about Nick Fuentes many times over the years in our many appearances together, and that's how I knew about him, because he was saying absolutely terrible things about you. And I am going to show a video, please forgive me, of one of my first introductions to this guy, Nick Fuentes, and what he was saying about Ben. This is a video of him showing himself playing Grand Theft Auto, right, a video game where you shoot people, and he's pretending that this character in the video is Ben. Let's watch.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that makes me laugh and laugh. That's a funny one. What a chance encounter that was. I think I just saw Ben Shapiro.
And it goes on. It goes on.
I mean, I would hate for people to believe that the Nick Fuentes sort of, my problems with Nick Fuentes are about me, because they really are not. They are about the fact that Nick Fuentes is a truly horrifying person who believes truly horrifying things. I mean, again, there is a reason why Charlie Kirk despised him. There's a reason why every mainstream political commentator has been highly critical of him. It's the reason why these are not arguments. This is not a person who's making arguments. He is a Hitler-loving troll, and I say that advisedly. He literally says on his show that he loves Adolf Hitler. Okay, so the reason this has come up in recent weeks is because Tucker, your guest last night, decided to have him on last week and to completely gloss him, in my opinion. And you can make up your own opinion as to what you think Tucker was doing during that interview, but I know what it looks like when Tucker Carlson decides to be an aggressive interviewer, when he decides to ask difficult questions of people. Tucker is eminently capable of doing that. He did it to Ted Cruz quite thoroughly. But he decided for any number of reasons, and I try not to attribute motivations to people, that he was going to treat Fuentes with kid gloves, that he was going to not ask him about any of the things that I've just mentioned, literally any of them, and to essentially normalize Fuentes, act as a sort of gateway drug, or as what I've called Tucker, as an ideological launderer of bad ideas over the last couple of years. And this is not coming from a place of animus for Tucker on a personal level. I've known Tucker for a very long time. Tucker and I, whenever we're in personal situations, we get along great. I think I saw that Tucker talked about how we were at Charlie's memorial in the vice president's box together, and he's correct. I mean, we saw each other, we said hello, we talked, it was very friendly, and all of that. And it's also true that a couple of days after Charlie's murder, he reached out and he called me and he said, listen, I know that we're at odds, and we've been at odds for a number of reasons, mainly political. I mean, again, on a personal level, I'd go fishing with Tucker anytime. The real question is, for me, I got into this business because I care about the ideas and I care about the ideals. And so when you're determining what is conservatism, what should the future of America look like, and where do you draw the lines, those are the questions that I need to answer in my job. For me, my business is really not about friendship. I have lots of friends, people who I love, with whom I disagree on politics and don't believe they should be leaders in the conservative movement, for example. And that to me is the real question. In any case, Tucker reached out. He said, we've had a bunch of disagreements, and what if we could put those aside and align toward the DSA in particular, is what he mentioned. And I said, Tucker, you're totally right. Let's do that. That would be great. In fact,
the TSA?
The DSA, the Democratic Socialist
why
America.
the TSA? How did that bring you together?
The Democratic Socialist of America. And the reason
I know.
Yes, and the reason that I'm taking out
TSA
my
only
phone
divides people.
is because, yes, the reason I'm taking out my phone is because I don't just, I like to evidence what I'm saying with, actual evidence. So, Socialist of America threat.
I'm going to skip through this next part. I want to get to the part where I thought I had grabbed the right one, where Megyn, he was talking to Megyn about some specifics here.
Okay, so the detente after Charlie wasn't that he attacked you, or you had something.
No, I don't care about people attacking
interview.
me, and I don't think Tucker cares about people attacking him. I mean, again, we're professionals. We're in a business where people comment on what we say publicly. Again, this is why I think you and I differ on our angle with regard to, for example, Candace Owens. I think that what Candace Owens is doing right now is evil. It is evil what she is doing right now. Okay, and I say that
audience like
again,
that.
But what?
Because
I didn't opine on whether it's evil or not, but my position is it's really none of my business. And
why is it? But I have a question. Why is it none of your business? I mean, you comment on these things for a living.
I'm not mother of the internet.
No, but if this were on the left and somebody were accusing Charlie Kirk of his wife having murdered him, I assume that you would be talking about it.
Is that what Candace is accusing Erica of?
Yes.
Of murdering her own husband?
She's accusing TPUSA insiders and other members of the right wing, including Seth Dillon, of being involved in the murder of Charlie Kirk, yes.
Okay. like I said, I don't take in that content, which is an honest statement. I don't have time to watch Candace's show.
I believe you. I believe you. But the point that I'm making is that
what I
that
understand
friendship
Candace
should
to
not,
have
in
been
our
doing.
business, I think it's important. Listen,
Candace
friendship
and I are
should not
friends.
trump.
We don't even know each other.
I understand, but even with Tucker, friendship should not trump our manifest requirement to speak out when people do and say things that are both detrimental to conservatism and morally wrong.
Okay, so I don't totally disagree, but I think the way of handling that, at least for me, is much different. So
that last bit of all that, you can see Ben's perspective. I feel like that illuminates it fairly well. But from that last clip, that last bit, there is an obligation, whether you like, dislike, you have friends, colleagues, whatever, when somebody is doing something that is morally repugnant, like what I believe Candace Owens is doing, when you have somebody that is morally repugnant, like Nick Fuentes, it's the ideas that we want to attack. Personal attacks are very difficult. You know, when it comes to somebody who's just entirely consumed by evil, you have to, like I believe Nick Fuentes is, you have to call those sorts of things out. But somebody's got to be the honest voice. And people expect a Megyn Kelly to be an honest voice, to know all this stuff. She didn't know what Candace had been saying about TPUSA, that they're involved. I've been covering it on my tiny little channel here. I've been covering this for, the better part of, we're in November. It's been like over a month. The better part of a month, I've been covering this and talking about it. Why can't Megyn Kelly, who has researchers, why can't some of these big name pundits? And it's this sensitivity around friendship versus the truth. And I'm sorry, if you're willing to compromise there, if I had a close friend who was spewing some hateful nonsense and I didn't call them out and say, this is wrong. Look, you deal up with it on the cell phone call first. But if they say, nope, I believe this stuff and that's getting a ton of reach, I'm sorry, you have to say something to your audience. You absolutely do. And Megyn Kelly hasn't been, and I wish she would. And I sympathize with her as well. This is funny. I'm so glad I got this one. I'm so glad. $7,000. Where was it? Here it was. That people love to do this one. I don't know who you are. Mariah, $7,000 has been directly deposited into your account. Oh my gosh. As if you have nothing else. Give me some ideas. Give me some actual debate. Give me some actual ideas. I'm showing both sides of this argument. So you can take your $7,000 stuff, and I shouldn't even respond to that. It's low IQ. Oh, gracious. Anyway, so yeah, this is the thing. There's a beef with Tucker. There's a beef with Ben Shapiro. It has gotten wildly personal. I'm going to play some of the stuff that Ben Shapiro has said, and this is why I don't like the personal part of it, because it's going to get to a point where it's irreparable. And these are two of the biggest names in the conservative movement. Yeah, people are debating whether or not they're conservative to begin with, and that's fine. But they do have some of the largest audiences on the right. And do we really want somebody like a Nick Fuentes to be the one that picks up the mantle when people start to jump ship on these platforms? And I'm going to get to all the comments here in a minute. Thank you guys for firing up the chat. I appreciate it. So here is, I played the one from Tucker on Ben Shapiro. There's several of them. Let me play some of the ones Ben Shapiro on Tucker. Here we go. Let's play this. This is a 2-minute clip. ... If the X player wants to work.
Americans hate Tucker Carlson's laundered anti-Americanism. Republicans think it's trash. Independents think it's trash. Democrats think it's trash. Americans are not pro-segregation, pro-rape, anti-woman, pro-child marriage, anti-black, anti-Jew, anti-Indian, anti-Latino, anti-Constitution, pro-Hitler nutjobs like Nick Fuentes. And Americans are not pro-Putin, pro-Iran, pro-China, pro-Venezuela, pro-Hamas, pro-Fuentes, pro-Tate idiots like Tucker Carlson. They hate this vile garbage. If Republicans decide to cower before the likes of neo-Nazis and their propagandizers, they deserve to lose. And they will lose. Neo-Nazis and their propagandizers are not Republicans. They are not America First. They are not MAGA. They sure as hell aren't conservative. These people aren't to my right. They are not attached in any way to the fundamental principles of conservatism. And these people have already declared themselves to be my enemies. I'd be a fool not to take them seriously. If they get their way, they will hollow out the Republican Party, lead it to electoral catastrophe, and empty it and the country of any semblance of decency in the process.
Okay, I have given lots of criticisms of Ben Shapiro. In fact, I haven't been a Ben Shapiro fan in several years. I felt like he was playing too middle of the road when it came to policy. And, things have kind of shifted a bit, I guess, but I still, look, he wore off. He was a novelty in my mind, but he makes some valid points here that this movement, it doesn't resemble conservatism. It really doesn't. The Nick Fuentes side of things, some of the Tucker Carlson does, but the Nick Fuentes side of this does not resemble conservatism. It resembles more identity politics, like what we hated on the left. So I just feel like with I know that with Ben Shapiro continuing to go hard against Tucker Carlson, it's creating a rift, and Tucker Carlson doing the same. It's creating a rift that I believe is going to be irreparable. And it's that same wedge that if you guys that have been, a lot of you guys in the comments have been watching this show for a while, and you know that I've been talking about this wedge that's being driven into the conservative movement, into the MAGA movement. I'm a conservative, but the MAGA movement is a little something different. And it was a relatively unified front. We had disagreements and arguments on certain policy perspectives, in particular foreign policy. But we aligned on a lot of big issue items like DOGE. We wanted the fraud, waste, and abuse to be cut from the federal government. That's some place that we all aligned. And now these polarizing figures, the Candace Owens of the world, the Nick Fuenteses of the world, have popped in here and started to split us on things that really were never talking points for the right to begin with. Identity politics was not our thing, but they have made it our thing. And the soft platforming that they're talking about with Tucker Carlson, that's not helping. If Tucker Carlson has him on, have on anybody you want to. But push back on them just like you push back on people that you don't wholly agree with. Not that I'm saying he agrees with everything that Nick Fuentes says, but it certainly shows a certain level of favoritism. Now, the criticisms of Tucker have been pretty stout, and a lot of it is from, of course, Zionist people. Dinesh D'Souza has been one of the I guess, loudest voices when it comes to this. I'm going to play his take on it. I thought it was interesting. PBD Podcast, they played this clip. I went back and found it because they were talking about the same issue. This is a hot topic right now in the news, this rift between Tucker and Ben Shapiro. And Dinesh D'Souza is, honestly, I think he's kind of helping the divide, I believe, but he at least offered his perspective on how Tucker approaches some of this stuff.
Doesn't even purport to be knowledgeable about anything. So as a result, what Tucker says is, I will develop a ventriloquist style. I have strong opinions, but I don't want to defend any of them. So I will set up a structure in which I bring in sources, often rather dubious sources, people you've never heard of. You know, the nun with the mustache, some disgraced academic. And what I'll do is I will ask sort of leading questions in which is embedded an answer, my answer, but framed as a question. You then will blurt out the obvious implications of the question, giving me the answer I expected, but I will pretend to be thunderstruck by it. It's an epiphany. It's a new revelation. People have been suppressing this kind of thinking for decades. So this is a shtick. It's a different shtick than Candace. Candace's shtick is the Candace Intelligence Agency. I'm like the world's greatest detective. You know, I'm the Pink Panther of my time. I'm deputizing all my viewers also to be detectives. Feed me information. We're going to crack the case. So to me, this is like an intellectual embarrassment because all my life I've been an iconoclast. I will take on ideas and I will try to dismantle them, but not in this way. My ideas are things like this. The Dixiecrats all became Republicans. And my strategy of challenging that is I go make an inventory of the 200 Dixiecrats. I put them up on a movie screen and I say, all right, I'm now going to show you through a movement of the mouse which of these 200 Dixiecrats became Republicans. Answer 2. So did the Dixiecrats as a group become Republicans? No. There's the empirical evidence right there on the screen. You can check it out, for yourself. So when I see this almost parody of investigation, parody of scholarship, it's very unnerving.
I thought that was a great explanation of how they handle this. Tristan over here says, over on Rumble, Thank you for joining, Tristan. She says, I won't watch more than 2 minutes of Candace, Tucker, or Nick. I can't take Ben seriously anymore due to the new facial hair combined with his voice. Thanks, Tristan. I appreciate the comment. Okay, so this is it's almost like a faux intellectualism is kind of how Dinesh D'Souza is describing it. And I thought it was particularly interesting the way he talked about Candace, that she's, the Pink Panther of our time, that she's this investigative reporter that has all the ins and outs. If you guys didn't know, I'm briefly going to highlight this, that she was interviewed on CNN, and they actually approached her about this, and oh my, she looked a fool.
When
Check this out real quick.
When you say you believe that Charlie Kirk was betrayed by someone close to him, what do you mean?
I think that in the coming weeks, there's going to be a lot of financial reports that are coming out. And I, first and foremost, do not believe that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. I want to be very clear on that. Whether he was involved, I think the answer is yes. I think that's obvious.
And your basis for saying he didn't act alone is what?
I don't know, maybe the weird Fed messages that were concocted out of thin air that had no timestamp and were written like they were speaking in 1822, among other things. Their lack of an ability to answer any basic questions about what took place.
But do you have any proof that the messages were made up? Because that would be easily proven.
Yeah, but they didn't put timestamps on them, and Discord came out and said they didn't exist.
This was supposedly text messages, not Discord messages. It's my understanding from the indictment.
I actually did not read that they were text messages.
The indictment calls them text messages.
What would it be like the feds are like on a computer, typing it out back and forth?
That's exactly what it is. The feds made up the text messages.
But you don't have anyone from like the FBI telling you that, or law enforcement?
I have leaks.
Okay.
No.
Has anyone leaked to you?
And Tyler Robinson has.
But has anyone said to you, even off the record, like, yeah, we faked these?
I have very strong sources everywhere on both sides.
Well, I look forward to seeing the evidence of that.
Yeah, sure. Because when we keep talking about evidence, it's like, who's going to present that evidence? Like the mainstream media? Like who are you expecting to come out?
Yes, that would be a hot story.
No, it wouldn't be.
It would be.
It wouldn't be.
If the FBI, like if I had a source telling me, like if I had proof that the FBI faked those messages, that would be an enormous story.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we live in a post-Epstein world, and we know how stories get shut down. And
you're the largest podcast in the world, and if you just had proof, just show us. No. I gotta lead people along on this silly little journey that is dividing the party. So look, I only play that one because Dinesh D'Souza mentioned it, and I think it's important that the individuals who are approaching this stuff with this faux intellectualism, they're getting all these big interviews, but they pick and choose who they want to push back against. They pick and choose who they want to highlight, and they pick and choose it in order to draw their own narrative, which is in a lot of ways antithetical to our actual conservative movement. I mean, Tucker came out here recently, and you guys probably saw this. He defended Nicolas Maduro, of all people. And, it's one of those things. I could play the video for you. It's why he's confusing me so much. Because to come out and say, to criticize our foreign policy, perfectly fine. They say, why are we getting involved down in Venezuela? And he could have said, I don't think that we should be involved in these foreign conflicts. I don't think that troops should be allocated to a place like Venezuela, that any of our military resources could. But instead of just saying that, and he could say, look at all the, the failed regime changes that we've been involved in over the years. Highlight those. Highlight all of our many failures from Angola, Afghanistan, back in the 70s, Nicaragua, Grenada, Panama, Haiti, Iraq, Yugoslavia, Kosovo, Afghanistan, Iraq again, Libya, Syria, Yemen, Venezuela. All the ways that we have been involved in foreign policy, fine, critique it. Say this is how we have failed one way or another. But he goes as far as to support and prop up Maduro, a socialist, down in Venezuela.
Why are we doing this? Why are we so opposed to Nicolas Maduro? So if you ask someone on the street, random person, why are we against Nicolas Maduro? The answer you're going to get is, who's Nicolas Maduro? But if you find someone in South Florida, for example, who knows who Nicolas Maduro is, who can identify where Venezuela is on a map, that person will almost certainly say, well, because he's a communist or a socialist, he's exceedingly left-wing, and that is true. Nicolas Maduro and his government are very left-wing on economics. not on social policy, by the way, which is kind of interesting. In Venezuela, gay marriage is banned, abortion is banned, sex changes for transgenderism are banned. It's one of the very few countries in the entire hemisphere with those policies. It is on social policy, not defending the regime, just saying, one of the most conservative countries in North or South or Central America. Only El Salvador really comes close, which is much smaller, of course. And by the way, the U.S.-backed opposition leader who would take Maduro's place if he were taken out is, of course, pretty eager to get gay marriage in Venezuela.
Valid criticism that the person we want to put in, we never do a good job at it, by the way. We've never done a good job when it comes to these regime changes. That's why I love Tulsi Gabbard, because she has been adamantly opposed to regime change. I don't think we should be doing regime change. I don't care if it's Venezuela or wherever else. Pick your poison. We suck at it. We're really bad at it. But that's the argument. Why do we need to try to make a positive message for the socialist dictator in Venezuela, the socialist leader in Venezuela, whose people are starving, even though they're one of the most oil-rich countries on the planet? This is a country that, like most of them, used to be prosperous. Then you get a socialist in, the same people that we elected, that they elected in New York, the guy that says the rich people have too much and all that. Yeah. Let's try to make a positive case for Nicolas Maduro. That's ludicrous. And he could have gone any way with that argument. And I don't know what his angle is. I cannot figure out Tucker Carlson's angle because it's nonsensical. Fine about regime change, but why take the time to plead the case for a socialist leader? Same thing he was doing with, look, I liked Bukele. I liked the way he presented things, but he was pretty authoritarian. That's a valid critique of Bukele. But Tucker Carlson says that's a good thing for a right-wing leader to be that heavy-handed. It's the same thing Nick Fuentes, like we were talking about before. This ends justifies the means mentality, and I'm not on board with that. We have a tricky situation here. I mean, thankfully, we've got a pretty ironclad constitution that our politicians have been ripping to shreds for my entire lifetime, but it's still holding together like the tattered flag, flying on the battlefield during the Revolutionary War. It's still holding together, but just barely. So it's confusing. And, again, when he and Marjorie Taylor Greene were sitting there talking about Mamdani, the only thing that he has said since in the past 2 months, 3 months, all the way leading up to the election, he mentioned Mamdani once, and that was with MTG, to talk nice about him, to say, well, he did say the right things, as if the people of New York deserve that. I mean, they do because they voted for it. But I'm just saying that, well, maybe he's not that bad of an option. It's really, really weird. Now, I have got and I want to say, I will start now before I get into some of these headlines and then to the comments. I want to say that the reason I'm hitting this hard, and I'm going to continue to hit this division that we're seeing very hard and go after both sides. Again, I feel like I haven't criticized Ben Shapiro enough. Ben Shapiro did talk far too much about the Israel conflict, and I get it. He's a Jew. That's his thing. That's his shtick. That's their shtick. But I do think that he spends too much time talking about it. I also think that he, along with a lot of other people in the Jewish community, they have overused the word anti-Semitism to the nth degree. And it's slightly infuriating because that's something that has infuriated Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, rightfully so, that this, the victim mentality on their side. So we're on their side of that international issue, which I've not done a whole lot about, I'll be perfectly honest. But nonetheless, I'm saying all this to say that there's some headlines we're going to get to because those are the things that we should be talking about. We should be spending more time talking about that. Let me get to, let's see. Okay. One more video. Do I want to play this whole thing? It's a longer video. It's like 10 minutes long. 9 minutes, but it's done by Konstantin Kisin. And if you don't know Konstantin Kisin, I've played some of his stuff tonight. It is, in fact, I'm not going to play it, but I am going to tell you guys to go and watch it. How about that? You can go to X, go to Konstantin Kissin's website, or not to his website, to his X account, and watch this. It's a roughly 9.5 minute video. And it's highlighting what is causing people, these especially young people, to move in this direction, of the direction of a Nick Fuentes, the direction of a Candace Owens, the direction of these divisive figures in American politics. And it's a very interesting take. It talks about feminism being part of that, the feminization of our education system. It talks about the breakdown of the family, which, by the way, Nick Fuentes is not going to be any help when it comes to the building back of the American family, especially the way that he talks about women, the way that he talks about marriage. In fact, he in his interview with Tucker Carlson, let me see if I can find that one. Let's see. Here we go. Yeah, I'm going to play this one for you because I think that because it's a key component of his video, I think it's important for you to hear his take on the relationship between
a Muslim polygamist who is very Andrew Tate's a Muslim polygamist who is very chauvinistic, and you could even argue it as someone who has ran an OnlyFans site himself, like is not an observer, let's say, of Christian sexual morality.
No.
But men are going with him because he's putting women in their place. He's talking about patriarchy and women's place in a society like that. Whereas Christian men, Catholics, Protestants alike, are both kind of tone policing the men. And they worship their wives. They worship the women, put them on a pedestal. And they kind of get bossed around. They get henpecked by the women.
I think we're required to love our wives. Like that's... I mean, all over the New Testament, husbands love your wives, wives respect your husbands. That seems like a very natural balance to me.
Yeah, and I think that you have to love your wife as your wife.
Yeah.
A lot of men...
As opposed to what? Your mom?
Well, no, like your buddy.
No. Because
I hear this all the time, and I hate this. Guys will say, I married my best friend. And I think, she's your wife. She's not your best friend, because there's a difference.
What is the difference?
I think that when you talk about your best friend, you're a peer, you're an equal. And I think your best friendships are with other men. And I think that your wife ultimately is subordinate to you. She's your helpmate. Yeah. And ultimately, as the man in the marriage and as the father, you have authority, the final say over the household.
Well,
and she can give advice. It's not to say I'm not a freak where you say, shut up, woman. I mean, of course, you discuss things with your wife and your wife gives input, but the authority rests with the man.
Of course. But God set up this kind of amazing system where men are physically stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, you could make your wife do whatever you wanted. You're bigger than she is.
Right.
But he also instilled in men this desire to please your wife. That's a very natural thing. You want your wife to be happy.
Absolutely.
And the whole happy wife, happy life thing is completely real. It's like you can't get away from it. It's not like all of these things. It's not a choice. It's the biological reality that you live with, that you were born with. You want your wife to be happy. And if she's unhappy, you're unhappy to a much greater extent than vice versa. Right?
Yeah.
I think men care about their wives being happy much more than wives care about their husbands being happy.
Yes.
I have noticed. And that's compensation for their lack of physical power.
Mm-hmm.
That's my view of it. And that's why it is this kind of perfect balance.
So here's the interesting thing. The reason I play that is that Nick Fuentes started off at the polar opposite of what Tucker Carlson said at the end, but he's agreeing at the end. And all this shows is his immaturity in a relationship. He's not married. I don't know that he's ever been in a serious relationship. I know, as I highlighted yesterday in the live stream, that he was caught a year ago watching, let's just say, illicit material of a non-heterosexual type. If that's the way you go for it. I'm just saying that's what he was doing while pitching himself as this conservative Christian male. And this is a very subdued version of it, and why it was a bit deceptive. That he's talking in this subdued way that, your wife's not your buddy, that you are superior. He believes in a level of almost ownership, men over women. He doesn't enumerate it here, which would lead people to think that maybe he's softer on the issue than they originally thought, but it's a deception. It is not. The content that he creates on a daily basis, some of it is so vile I wouldn't even play it on this channel, and that's his actual view of the male-female husband-wife relationship. So it's when Tucker soft platforms a Nick Fuentes, as he did, they get a subdued version of him, and then they will start getting the clips, and then they start getting over to his main content, and his main content is rancid stuff. There's a ton of people repeating it, a ton of people saying, yeah, this is what I think. And it's this slow conversion of younger people, of even people my age, I'm in my 40s, of people my age, they're saying, yeah, I like this. I'm just fed up with the system. I need somebody to blame. Nick Fuentes gets a lot of views. Nick Fuentes must be right. Same thing with Tucker. Tucker Carlson gets a bunch of views. He must be right. Candace Owens is the #1 podcast in the world. She must be right. And it's these subtle manipulations that just, they infuriate me. And they're overall have been destructive, I think. There are some people out there who do, honest interviews. And Tucker has done several honest interviews. This is kind of a new revelation, which is why I'm so disappointed in what I've seen so far. And again, maybe things will turn around. Maybe things will change because he's got this great platform, this huge platform. I just wish he would use it a bit more responsibly. And I don't feel like he has. But it's his. He can do with it as he pleases. So anyway, go to the Konstantin Kisin X account, Kisin. I think you guys saw it, and check that out. All right, now let me hit some headlines because this is the stuff that I think we should be talking about. I didn't get to the PBD podcast part. Yeah, that's okay. So I highlighted it yesterday, and I'm just going to get a couple of these, and then I'm going to get to the comments because I'm really coming up on the hour. So thank you guys for hitting me up in the comments. I see a lot of them. We've got a boatload, and I will get to them, I promise. But this is the headline that I wanted to spend a bit more time on the other day. By the way, and I didn't get to it again, and I had it up front to talk about it. The cancel culture that we're experiencing right now. I had a guy that I've been doing shows with for a while, the Chicago conservative. He's had me on panels. I would sit on his panels, and he just got shut down off of YouTube. So go check him out. He's on X and Rumble. Let me pull up his... I don't want to pull him up in the same context as Mamdani because he's not. He's an America First guy, and he had a channel of 30,000 people, and he got shut down. It was a shame. Shame on YouTube for doing this. But I was going to use this as the initial point to say, look, we're getting shut down from the left. We definitely don't need a cancel culture over here on the right. We've been fighting this for since YouTube has been a thing. The cancel culture is very, very real. We don't need to be canceling each other. But we need to be smart about who we're choosing to share our valuable airtime with. So anyway, let me get back to this one. So Mamdani, some leaked documents. This is interesting. In the Mamdani campaign, I played yesterday all the leftists who were coming out whooping and hollering, and then the Groypers who were coming out whooping and hollering, yay, 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 oh boy, Mamdani won, look at that, sticking it to MAGA, sticking it to Donald Trump. Some documents have been released, and this is from the Democrat Socialists of America. It is essentially let me read a bit of this. Internal planning documents revealed that the Democratic Socialists of America is preparing to use its influence over newly elected Mayor Zoran Mamdani to advance an aggressive political program that reaches far beyond ordinary city governance and deep into socialist and anti-Israel activism. Fascinating, because these are the lists. Almost all of it is involved with Israel. Why the New York City, of all places, this is, let's make our virtue signaling sort of thing. Well, we don't like Israel. Fine, we know that. Divest city pension funds from Israeli bonds and securities. Withdraw city funds from banks that lend money to Israel or do business in Israel. End city contracts with companies that do business with Israel. Operate city-run grocery stores free from Israeli products. Investigate real estate agents hosting illegal sales of stolen lands in the West Bank. Evict weapons manufacturers and transporters from New York City's metro areas. Remove nonprofit status from charities that raise funds for IDF. Divest CUNY endowment and reinstate wrongly fired professors. Dismantle Eric Adams' New York City Israeli Economic Council. I mean, good gracious. 100% of this stuff is let's just leverage New York City against Israel. I think that the people who are actually suffering in New York because of rising costs and because of crony capitalism and crony politics and all that nonsense, maybe that should be the focus for you socialists, but they choose to make it about a foreign policy issue. But that's not how socialism works, right? This is leveraging the economic system to get your political ends. And when your political ends, they say that, oh, everybody's focused on Israel. Nobody is more focused on Israel than the left. And it's in opposition to it, by the way. And the woke right also solely focused on Israel. So we had that released from the Mamdani, or from the Democrat Socialists of America. Fascinating. Here's another one. This is going to bite us down the road. All-time high, $18 trillion in household debt. Debt is a monster. Debt is a bear. It will crush your soul. And a record number of American households are dealing with it. I've been trying to watch crypto. I'm not an economics guy. That's not my thing, although my wife follows it heavily. She's fascinated with it, and she sends me articles. That's one of the things that I do like about the PBD podcast. They've got economics is kind of, I would say, their strong suit. When it comes to a lot of the political commentary, it's okay sometimes, but when it comes to the economy and all that, that's stuff they've been watching for a very long time. But this household debt crisis, along with the unfunded liabilities that we have as a country, this is going to ultimately be our downfall. People are predicting it and have been for a long time, another 2008 type crash. But, I believe, Marjorie Taylor Greene came out and was very mad about the, mass deportations. Trump still trying to amp up. They're not happening to the level that a lot of us wanted, which is something that I do support. But for her, she was saying that she was opposed to it because of things like the construction industry, who rely heavily on foreign labor, because Americans don't want to do those jobs. They've been told forever and a day that's beneath them, that you got to get a college degree and get a job clickety-clacking on a keyboard somewhere, and that's the version of true success. But there's millions of jobs still available here in the country that Americans aren't taking, and they better start grabbing them so they can start paying down some of this debt. But it's almost we're at 100% debt to GDP as a country. That I don't think anybody has ever come back from that. You guys can correct me down in the comments. So we're at over 100, we're 120% debt to GDP. Family households have $18 trillion in debt. This is getting into an inescapable situation. Unfunded liabilities across the globe are, I believe, 2 times, the last time I looked, 2 times global GDP. There is a crash coming at some point in time. And the leaders that we have in position are going to be incredibly important. Who we have in position is going to be very important. And when it's a socialist in a place like New York, or it's Democrats in a place like the U.S., or unipartians, which I've been speaking against ever since I started this show in D.C., that doesn't help anyone. That's going to make the problem worse. We get the bailouts and all the nonsense that we got after 2008. It kicks the can down the road into another political cycle. This is something that has to be fixed, and it has to be fixed immediately. But this is monstrous. I feel for those families that are suffering with debt. Oh, it crushes your soul. Absolutely crushes your soul. All right. Let's see. Oh boy, I'm already up on an hour. The last one that I'm going to, let's see. Well, while we're talking about foreign influence, let's pull up this article about Muriel Bowser. Here we go. Muriel Bowser, D.C. mayor, under federal corruption investigation for Qatar trip. For those that don't believe that Qatar is involved in our politics, I beg to differ, my friends. I beg to differ. $6 billion they've pumped into universities. But Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is reportedly the target of a federal corruption investigation over a trip she took with members of staff that was paid for by Qatar. People familiar with the matter told the New York Times that the inquiry is based on potential bribery or campaign finance law violations. The investigation has reportedly been underway for months and is being handled by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, D.C. Now, I'm going to highlight something that Tristan posted over on Rumble. Said that federal grand jury just subpoenaed John Brennan, Lisa Page, and Peter Strzok. There we go. Getting after it. I've been critical of Kash Patel, and, I agree with some of the folks that I'm not a fan of, that the whole Epstein thing has not progressed like I want it to. But my goodness, some accountability for the deep state. It's sorely, sorely needed. I think you guys would agree. All right. Let me get to some comments. We are coming up on the hour, and we've got a lot of comments over here. Woo, boy. Right. Let's see. I'm going to try to get to all of them. Oh, boy. This is a common sentiment. Here, let me pull it up here. Oops. This is a very common sentiment. I get that one a lot. Candy Nick, Ben Tucker, they're all the same thing. Self-serving grifters, says Junior. Yeah, I have to be fair and honest about this, that when it comes to this recent, I guess, beef between between Tucker and Ben, who do I think has more of a leg to stand on? I think in the instance of Nick Fuentes, Ben Shapiro does, although, as I've said before, I'm not a huge fan of Ben Shapiro. You know, I felt like he was playing, you can go back and watch my videos on it. I felt like he was playing too middle of the road, like he was trying to become the new, uniparty rep, or that he was doing it because it was good for that it was good for the Daily Wire, for his network, that he plays a little more middle of the road to help subscribers. And I wanted him to go more towards, cutting more government spending, supporting more Doge, supporting more, exit from foreign countries and all of that stuff. And I felt like he played middle of the road too much. So he's by all accounts, a moderate. He's not some wild conservative. And I'm very conservative. I just don't buy into the identity politics stuff of Nick Fuentes. All right, I already played that one. MAGA doesn't care about Ben getting his little feelings hurt because of words. Who cares? This is lady topic stuff. I don't know what you were referencing there, Junior. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. This was talking about Megyn Kelly. Yeah, she's playing Switzerland. That is kind of what she was doing. She was playing Switzerland. Hey, about Megyn Kelly, she be my girlfriend. To me, fooled the blue kazoo. I don't know what that means. So I'm not going to put it up. You said, watch your effing mouth about Megyn Kelly. She be my girl. Daniel, I don't know. Losing his audience. Been more than half of his audience so far. Dude is over. So you're a Tucker fan. I guess Melon 120 or 1287. Ben is out of touch. Everyone loves Tucker. Not everyone. I certainly don't. Well, and Zachary doesn't. There you go. Right back to back. Tucker has come. See, it's wild. We're so divided on this. I hope that there can be some sort of reconciliation between all these people. That on their current path, I don't see how that's even possible, because it keeps getting more and more vitriolic. Let's see. Right-wing idiots getting into bed with, well, I mean, are they really right-wing though? I mean, this is kind of the thing. When you're talking praising Hitler and Stalin, you're a socialist, right? Socialism is not right-wing politics. That's the misnomer. It's been poorly categorized over the years. They say, oh, extreme right-wing, and extreme right-wing is Hitler. Well, Hitler's it's National Socialist Party. That is left-wing politics. So it's kind of been changed. I've listened to people give explanations as to why they consider that to be right-wing. It's not modern-day right-wing. Let's be honest. Let's see. So funny to see these losers obsess about Israel. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Zachary. I am exhausted talking about Israel. I'm exhausted talking about that conflict. Of all the things that are dividing us, that, what's happening in a foreign land. And again, this was my critique going into this most recent election. So we were spending all of our time talking about that. Ben Shapiro and people of his ilk say anything and everything, any criticism of Israel is anti-Semitism, and the other side takes full advantage of that and takes it to the nth degree into realms that most people would consider anti-Semitism. But then their argument is, oh, they're overly sensitive about it. It's really so frustrating. The most viewers Ben has ever had was 7.2. He's now has 7.21. Premise for suggesting he lost half his audience. Tova, you're not even watching his views. Say, don't let it happen in our comment section either. Let's see. Who is that soft ass in the lady shirt? I don't know which one that. Oh, I appreciate that. This guy is just a podcaster. He acts like he's doing something important. You're a podcaster, bro. Well, I'm certainly trying, Junior. Junior's been watching my content for a long time. I don't agree with everything you say, Junior, but I appreciate you coming back and supporting me, man. I know you don't agree with everything I say either. Let's see. Yes, Dinesh has amazing books and movies out. Yeah, I personally like Dinesh. I always have it. I've liked his documentaries. 2,000 Mules, isn't that what it was? That one was fascinating. So he's got some, I think people getting into that movie space it's good for the movement. Angel Studios, from a Christian perspective, has done some amazing stuff. So if you guys have never heard of Angel Studios, go check them out. And the Daily Wire, they did some good programming. They did some good stuff as well. Let's see. Be stir by stir, you mean someone that requires a high. Don't mean okay. Yeah. That was the one. I played that one a while back. If you guys are new to this channel, Tucker did play apologetics for Sharia law. That you go to a place like Saudi Arabia, or you go to these other countries, and you can leave your keys in your car. You think it's just this fantastic thing, even though it's a theocracy. It's a very violent theocracy in most cases. Oh, it looks like there's beef between Jennifer and Junior. Keep it civil. I might be late to that that rift. Let's see. Jennifer, I'm not being nasty. I haven't said a single nasty thing. I'm just challenging your wacky opinions. All right, I'm not gonna air all that. Tucker still have scars from the demon attack. This was. He talked to, I didn't want to minimize that, to be honest with you. It's a very spiritual thing. I don't even know where to go with that one. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't even know where to go with it. So I'm not going to engage, but he did talk about having a demon actually attack him, physically assault him. What does that do to one? I have no idea. Let me get to Tristan over here. Federal grand jury just subpoenaed John. Okay. I watched, thank you, Fauci on Angel today. Oh, I'll guess Fauci. Fauci made a public appearance today. This is over on Rumble from Tristan. Thanks, Tristan. Another one that's been watching this show for a long time. Appreciate you. Let's see. Boy, Jennifer and Junior, y'all going at it. I have any quicker to forgive. Let's see. Rebuking, this is a great point, Timothy. Yes, rebuking and calling out is not the same as cancel culture. That is very, very true. And this is where it's being misused, is people are saying, we have a problem with you platforming Nick Fuentes because we don't like Nick Fuentes. And they say, you're part of cancel culture. No. Why is it valuable to have a conversation with Nick Fuentes? Where do you get value out of a conversation with Nick Fuentes? Tell me the upside to his rhetoric. Tell me the end game. That's what I want to know. Where does Nick Fuentes, when you take his ideas, I say this repeatedly, and I'm going to continue to repeat it. When you take Nick Fuentes all the way to the end of his ideas, what, you have a Stalin regime with only white European people and you're booting la-di-da-di everybody, even American citizens who aren't of your same shade, out of the country? Is this your plan? Like, there is no end game. It's muckraking for muckraking's sake. And that's what infuriates me about it. Like, why is it even worth talking to the guy? Yes, Timothy, there you go. Thank you, Timothy, making good points. We're required by our Lord Jesus Christ to rebuke our brothers and sisters. There we go. Yep. And again, Timothy, thank you for the pearls of, I'm about to say pools of wisdom, pearls of wisdom. MTG owns a construction. How good? Yes, that's true. Yeah. So she owns a construction company. That's why she came out and said, "Oh, hey, we don't want we don't want to do mass deportations. We can't do that. Mass deportations aren't going to help us." Let's see. Kiki Bintri. Okay, so this is interesting. Did she come out and actually say, did Candace Owens actually come out and say, Erica Kirk did this? No, she did not. However, this is the crafty linguistics of people like Candace and her ilk. It's turning point. Isn't this suspicious? Isn't that suspicious? All the little points and all the little arrows would lead one to believe that the leader of the organization, that the one who took the mantle of the organization, had some responsibility. And to keep pushing that is what it is. That's what it's implying. So no, you're right. Ben Shapiro said that she said that. Candace didn't say that, but she has implied it heavily. Israel fatigue is real. Yep, you are 100% right. Oh, I know. I know what you meant, Junior. I appreciate it, man. Joe, welcome aboard, Joe. You're a new one, I think. Have you been on before, Joe? He says Ben is loyal to Israel only. I don't think that's true. I think that, look, I will be honest. I think he's America first, but I think he is definitely, obviously, he's definitely pro-Israel. He's a Jewish guy. I don't know if he's a dual citizen. I'm, by the way, so I can make it clear, my stance on this, I'm adamantly opposed to dual citizenship. I think that once you become a U.S. citizen, you renounce your citizenship with other countries. Does that mean you can't care about what happens in your homeland? No, you can. And he just happens to have millions of viewers. I don't know if he's a dual citizen. I could probably Google it and find out. But yeah, I think that Ben Shapiro has spent an inordinate amount of time talking about the Israel thing. And do I think he gets pushback, or that he is being prodded by people by other Jewish people inside of America? Absolutely he does. And that's not, I mean, it kind of is what it is, I guess. But it's his platform. He can talk about what he wants to talk about, in my opinion. I just think he talks about it far too much. And he does overplay the whole anti-Semitism thing. Nick is a troll. Yes. Joe says, let's see. Cowards bickering like women. Meanwhile, Democrats want to kill Republicans. Let's see. So this is your take. Get a grip on reality. Republicans are cowards bickering like women. Meanwhile, Democrats want to kill Republicans. I mean, I've heard people making that argument. That, I mean, here's the thing. I agree we shouldn't be bickering like we are, but we have to address the bickering, and we got to have some sort of unified voice or some sort of, I guess, bring some levity to it. What's going to be the end state to all this bickering and all this fighting? I'm trying to provide that, but it's getting so confusing and it's getting so difficult, and I believe approaching irreparable, that I don't know. Joe, why did you delete your comment? We already read it. She is going to bring fire down on all Turning Point. Yes, this is what Candace said. Yep, that was Candace's comment. All right, I made it to the end of the comments, guys. Thank you all so much. I truly appreciate it. I appreciate hopefully we got some new viewers, some new subscribers tonight. If we did, or if you haven't done it yet, I would truly appreciate it if you would hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the notification bell. That way we're notified, or you're notified every time a new video is released. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all my subscribers. This channel is growing. Come join the community. By the way, I have recently been allowed to do some of the monetization things on YouTube, which is great. I'm going to be adding some members-only section, some members-only options and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and get in on it early. So if you do enjoy it and you hit that subscribe button, be on the lookout for that. I'm sure I'm going to announce it in another show, and I'll be making more content for you guys that are members inside of the YouTube community, inside of the Rumble community. I can't forget Rumble, although my Rumble viewership has been atrocious lately. I don't know why. When I've started talking bad about Nick Fuentes, all of a sudden my Rumble viewership started to crash. It was wild, absolutely wild. But guys, thank you so much. Love you guys. Love this country. Hope we can figure out how to get around all this infighting, but we shall see. Let's see. Tim, no, she won't. Candy is crashing out and she's going to humiliate herself. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's true. Sorry, I had to get to that last comment. Thanks, Junior. I'll give you the last word. All right, guys. Appreciate you all. I'll see you in the next show. God bless you. God bless America.